Mr. Attias, thank you very much for being here with Bloomberg Adria in Dubai today. You're known globally as a communication expert. However, what you do goes far beyond the usual communication agencies. Could you please explain what you and your team actually do?
So first of all, Anna, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. It's very difficult to speak about yourself, but I would say that the way I try to define myself is to be a catalyst. A catalyst by connecting people, by building bridges between different communities. And as a former civil engineer, instead of building real bridges, I'm trying to bring and to build platforms which are in fact helping global CEOs, world leaders to build their influence and to have real dialogues to solve issues, all issues, because I am convinced that not a single issue in the world could not be solved without a dialogue. So yes, this is related to strategic communication, this is related to advisory, this is related to creating international platforms and conferences, and also supporting some great public events which are supporting the strategy of countries and governments. So I'm also a brand nation expert. It's quite hybrid, it's quite holistic at the same time.
So how did you decide to move from where you started at one point in your career to move to organizing events that are rather there for a cause than in order to promote a brand or a product?
You know, Dubai is a key milestone of this transformation. I started my career almost in 1990 in terms of communication. Before I was working for IBM as a sales director. And then I decided that my passion was really to, as I said, deal with people. And this is when I moved to communication. And after almost 15 years of being the producer of the World Economic Forum annual meetings in Davos, of starting the Clinton Global Initiative in New York, or I would say producing multiple corporate events in the world, Dubai was a destination which was really very important to me. Because in 2008, when I decided to sell all my businesses and to look at what's next, I love reinventing myself. My dear friends from the Dubai government asked me to come here and to see how I can, in total humility, help them while it was the terrible financial crisis. The Time magazine, on the cover, put the picture of Dubai and mentioned Dubai is over. And because I knew that Dubai had a fantastic DNA, under the leadership of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, Dubai built amazing infrastructures. And what I know is when you have all these infrastructures, you will never disappear. So I came here and I was very lucky to be supported by many friends here in the government to help Dubai to become a brand. So this is why I improvise myself being a brand nation expert. And then when you build a brand, you have to fill the brand. You need to bring content because content is everything. So this is why during 2 years, 2008, 2009, while people were leaving their cars at the airport to leave the country, we moved here with my family and we decided that we should help this amazing city, this amazing global city, to become a hub and a destination for conferences, for sport events, for cultural activities. And I think it was the beginning of becoming the destination for the expo, for the opera, and this is how I became passionate by branding nations, by advising world leaders, and because the world is a small world, by co-optation I started to be in touch with multiple other world leaders from emerging countries in Africa, in the GCC, in the Middle East, in Asia, and I became, in total humility, a global citizen and a global player in that field.
You seem to see in the Gulf, which has become the hub, a big international hub right now, something that other people don't necessarily see, and other associations. What are they?
You know, I don't think that the GCC or the Middle East is a hub today. It was always a hub. If you look at the world map, we see for the past 15 years a big shift between West and East and between North and South. And by amazing coincidence, the GCC, with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, is at the center of this world map. So it is geographically already a hub. And then you have visionary leaders in this region, which made the infrastructures the best in the world in terms of airports, in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, in terms of accessibility, in terms of safety, which by definition you saw the past 15 years, so many people from all over the world coming here, coming in this part of the world, not because of taxes, let's be very frank. When you speak to people, with businessmen, with families, with global CEOs, with experts, with intellectuals, with artists, they love being here because you are connected to a big part of the world in less than 3, 4, 5 hours. So this is why I think it's becoming a hub. And you know, I was not a visionary. I was just someone pragmatic, very practical. And by observing what was happening in the world, I realized that things were moving here with a lot of ambition. And I wanted to be part of this ambition.
Back to your core business, can you please explain us the concept of business diplomacy, and is it inevitable for really high-level business?
Yeah, I would say more than business diplomacy, it's economic diplomacy. We live in a global world. Globalization is not negotiable anymore. Globalization is a fact. And governments, countries are working in total collaboration. You need to collaborate in all aspects. And the way government collaborate is of course through foreign policy, but more and more through economic diplomacy. And what is the definition of economic diplomacy is that I invest in your country, you invest in my country, we definitely build together joint ventures, we progress together. I would like you to import to my country your best practices and vice versa. And to be very concrete, if you look at the Silicon Valley, which was for years and years and years, the most advanced technology ecosystem, many countries are importing the knowledge and the savoir-faire, as we say in French, of this Silicon Valley. So when you bring technology here and you create incubators and vice versa, you export talents. This is economic diplomacy. When you decide to be a player on electric cars and you build your factory here to create jobs while you have the knowledge in other countries, this is economic diplomacy. When you decide together to go to Africa to help these countries and this economy to emerge and to support their mining strategy, their mining industry, to create jobs locally, to transform the economy locally, this is economic diplomacy. So you are building very strong roots, very strong links by creating a win-win-win approach. Win for the two partners and the win for the people of the country where you invest, because you create jobs and you help to raise the, I would say, social ecosystem.
You mentioned that you're all about building bridges, so to say figuratively. You have created some of the biggest gatherings in the world. Can you tell us what goes on behind the scenes on these gatherings, maybe through an anecdote or two? World Economic Forum, your other conferences.
Yeah, you know, many things happen during these international conferences when these conferences are very well curated. A conference is not a business. Many people are creating conferences because they think it's a cash machine organization where you have sponsors and you have membership. No. Conferences, the one I have in mind, the top 10 global conferences in the world, to mention few, not to make any publicity, but let's be very frank, the Future Investment Initiative, which is becoming one of the largest, if it's not the largest business conference in the world, happening every year in October in Riyadh. When you look at the e-government summit here in Dubai, when you look at the Davos annual meeting, which will happen in a few days in Switzerland, what is happening behind the scene? Number one, people network, and network for becoming or being game changers. And how can you be a game changer? You are a game changer by creating added value, creating businesses, creating investment opportunities, and also launching initiatives which will have an impact. You know, I have another hat, which is to be the CEO of the Future Investment Initiative, which is Institute, which is a not-for-profit foundation. Our motto is impact on humanity. So back to your question, what is happening behind the scene for real, with a good sense, with a purpose conferences, is to try to have an impact on humanity. So to give two examples, I will never forget when the late Nelson Mandela came to Davos just after his exit from jail. And his speech was so inspiring that many people, you know, were and decided to go to Africa, to see how to support South Africa, to discover this continent, which is a new frontier, and to also fight to eradicate racism, to eradicate the apartheid. So, you know, these small things, these small speeches, these small moments are creating a big impact. If you look at what happened even a few months ago in Riyadh at the FII conference, you have so many young entrepreneurs, because we are trying to be very inclusive, who came. They were just students who were babysitting our speakers. And I know at least 2 or 3 of them who, during the coffee break, they had the opportunity to speak to amazing global leaders. I will not mention who, because they are very well known and they are the biggest private equity or sovereign wealth fund leaders in the world. And just because of chemistry, because of in-person contact, they say, you know what, come to see me. I will invest in your very small project. The idea you have about an app. 1 year later, these people who were jobless just had an idea. They were given the opportunities, the chance to exist, and now the business is growing. So many things are happening behind the scene.
So FII happened right at the verge of the stopping of the pandemic, when we all thought that these sort of events will be over, or there will be a much longer pause. In retrospect, do you think it was the right thing to do to organize it then?
You know, FII started in 2017, so we had almost 3 years before COVID, and then the whole industry stopped. And I am so convinced by the in-person contact that I said we should never stop. Yes, we were so privileged at RNA to also be awarded the G20 in Saudi Arabia in 2020. So this is why we decided to have an FII hybrid, 600 people to keep the energy, and the rest was following virtually. This was January 2021. Then October 2021, we forced, with the support of the government, to be in person. And we had 5,000 people who came. And why they came? Because they were all sharing the same, I think, conviction than me, in total humility. They wanted to meet people. We are not born on this world to be in our kitchen or in our apartment alone behind a computer or in front of a computer. We are here to meet people. We're here to understand. We're here to share convictions, ideas, to have unexpected conversation, to create provocation, controversy. This is how we move together. The world needs to be in motion 24/7, and this is why we kept having this in-person global conversation and conferences.
Media being a big part of the communication business, and obviously we know all the shifts of the media, the mainstream media having shifted towards citizen journalism. Do you think this trend of social media and citizen journalism, of them taking over from the mainstream media, will continue, or there will be a hold into that?
I think it's unstoppable. The social media is part of our day-to-day business, our day-to-day way to work today. You know, in Africa, a continent which I know very well, 1.2 billion people, you have 70% of the population under the age of 25. They are the best consumers of social media, online communication. This part of the world in GCC, same, because the youth were born with social media, were born with iPhones, with phones, with cell phones. They were born with online information access. Even online is bringing a lot in terms of knowledge, access to information, access to others. But maybe I will not be popular by saying that. I think online media should be regulated. should be regulated by checking that the content is correct, that the content is true. We should be very cautious on fake news, on fake information. I have so much respect for the media world, but I think they should protect themselves by creating their own regulation and being sure that not everyone become a journalist, or everyone become a news provider, or anyone becomes a photographer or a paparazzi, etc. So I think it's non-avoidable. You have definitely social media becoming part of your, I would say, ecosystem. But we need to be cautious on what we put on our social media. We need also to protect our private lives, I think. I'm always fighting with my kids on, please, you want to be on social media, but be private. Why you need to expose your life to everyone? Just by decence, you know, no need to be so much exposed. And at the same time, when you share some information, check that the information is true. Don't just be, you know, an echo chamber of wrong information or fake news. So there is a lot of plus. I know it's a big debate. No one will have the final word, but definitely, back to your point, social media are great. They give access to many people who are voiceless. What is happening in many countries in the world in terms of social issues, some even challenges, are known thanks to social media and should continue to be. This is why we can bring support, but at the same time we need to be very cautious on how do we read the information to not be manipulated.
To sum up, why is it still so important to sit down and talk?
You know, in my company we have a motto which is we need to talk. So thank you for the question. We need to talk because we need to promote tolerance. We need to promote understanding. We need to promote, I would say, exchange of ideas. We need to promote innovation. Nothing could happen without talking. Nothing. How can I understand you if I don't talk to you? How can you understand me or understand my values, who I am? You know, we are, as I said, we are not, you say, born on this world to be selfish or to be isolated or to be by ourselves. Every single great things which was achieved in the world, from great companies, great ideas, great constructions, were built or happened by having people working together. So this is why we need to talk. You cannot build great things and make this world a better place to live without sharing, without talking, without inspiring. We need to inspire, we need to lead, we need to talk.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us at Bloomberg Adria.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk precisely.